Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third edition of Ask the Experts. Today, I will be joined by Dr. Julie Rowin. She is a neurologist and an integrative health specialist. So welcome, Julie, to our Ask the Experts.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So excited to have you. And many of you may know Julie from presentations that she's given for the foundation, as well as some of her editorial articles that she has contributed to our newsletter and on our news and media section of the website. But today we are going to be talking about strengthening your immune system naturally. So in past months and years, we've gotten a lot of questions from our GBS and CIDP patients about how to actually, in a natural way outside of their medical treatment, how to strengthen their immune system. Are there any natural ways to do that? And by far, the most frequent question that we do get is, are there ways in their diet, are there foods that you would recommend that can build a strong immunity?
Okay, well, I work a lot with food with my patients, and there's a lot to talk about. And there's also layers to it, you know, depending on how deep you wanted to get into the food issue. I think what we eat is extremely important as far as autoimmune disease. I think there's inflammatory foods that are really common that people eat that can ramp up your immune system and keep your autoimmune disease more active. And I think there's foods that can also make for a more anti-inflammatory atmosphere in the body. So having said that, so there's foods to eat and there's foods to avoid. So coming from the perspective that most Americans sadly don't get the recommended daily allowance of vitamins and minerals, I mean, over half. And then on top of it, a lot of patients in our population are on medications that could be nutrient depleting, such as prednisone, for example. And then thirdly, there's this whole phytonutrient gap. To me, I think that what we call phytonutrients, we used to call antioxidants. But these plant chemicals, I think, are essential. And there's about 8 out of 10 Americans don't get phytonutrients in their diet. So basically, at a simple level, what I say is eat a whole foods diet. That means 7 to 12 portions of plant-based foods a day. So fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes. That'll take care of your nutrient gaps. Easy way to think about it is, I always say, eat the rainbow. Because if you can get all the colored vegetables and fruits in every day, this is also going to take care of your nutrient gaps. So red, purple, orange, yellow, green, white. That's something that's very important. All the colors are super important. People are talking a lot about immunity these days. And orange foods could be really important to consider to take into your diet every day. Like eat an orange. I wouldn't eat orange juice because there's too much sugar. But you want to get the vitamin C, vitamin A, or beta carotene that makes it orange for your immune system every day. Also, you want to eat for your good gut bacteria, right? So everything goes back to gut health when we talk about autoimmunity. And we know that your good bacteria communicate with your immune system. So you want to foster an environment where good bacteria can grow inside of you. And one of the most important things to eat for that is fiber. So we're talking about particularly resistant starches, which this is a type of fiber that doesn't get digested by you. It goes undigested all the way into the colon. And in the colon, the good bacteria can ferment it and use it as food. So even probably more important than probiotics or probiotic food is these prebiotic fibers, so that you can get in like whole grains like oats, apples, like eating the skin with apples, eating the skin on your sweet potatoes, underripe banana is a good one, blueberries, onions, garlic, all these foods also really important. And another thing for autoimmunity is omega-3s. So something I've noticed a lot with my patients is they're deficient or at least not optimal in getting their omega-3s. And this is a fat that cannot be made in the body. So we have to eat it. The best sources are the fatty fish. So you have salmon, herring, mackerel, sardines. They're particularly healthy. And I find unless people are eating those 3 times a week, that they generally don't have optimal omega-3 levels. And we need that for our anti-inflammatory immune environment. Yeah.
A wide range. It sounds like a wide range of food, fibers, vitamin C's, omegas. Eat the rainbow actually is probably a good quick thing to remember for people.
Yeah, so that's the easy thing to remember. And I always will say, just start off your day with a smoothie maybe that has 5 colors in it, and then you're like, done,
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a soup or something you would consider, like, if you can't eat anything else, make sure you get this in your diet? Is there a superfood or a couple of superfoods that some people could remember that,
Oh, well, let's
check
just
all the boxes?
I'm not like a big fan of the word superfood, because I think all like fruits and vegetables are super.
Yeah.
And if you were to research them, you would find how amazing they are.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of that's a marketing thing.
Right.
So what we really need is all of it, all whole foods, fruits and vegetables. Like, this is a huge shift for a lot of people to think about at least 7 servings a day of fruits and vegetables. So yeah, I would say more think about getting all the colors. Because even if you do like a smoothie with blueberries, strawberries, mango, spinach, almonds, I mean, wow, you've just done a lot for yourself, and that tastes good.
Yeah. Great. So our next question, can herbs or herbal tea help with immune system strength?
Yeah, so I do use herbs in my practice pretty frequently, and it's individualized, so it's hard to talk generally to a broad audience. But certainly there's evidence for green tea. Green tea is a great tea for immune modulation and immune system strength. Also, curcumin or extract of turmeric root. So, I mean, you can either eat turmeric root, juice with turmeric, or take the extract, which is curcumin. And there's a lot of health benefits, anti-inflammatory, and immune benefits to curcumin. Of course, that can come in tea too. And just generally to use spices, don't hold back on the spices, because they really are herbs. Ginger, nutmeg, cinnamon, curcumin. Use them liberally in your cooking. And I might use other adaptogenic herbs too with my patients, but you probably really need to work with a practitioner if you start getting into some of the other herbs.
Okay, great. So caffeine, is caffeine something to avoid? You hear mixed reviews about caffeine.
Yeah, so I think it depends on the individual. I wouldn't say that because of an autoimmune condition you should avoid caffeine necessarily. It's more becomes an issue in patients who have a lot of stress and fatigue, trouble sleeping. And if we're in that sort of cycle where we're not sleeping, then it's an issue. Yeah.
Sleeping, another hot topic that we hear about in relation to good health and a strong immune system. How many hours do you recommend? How important is it to our immune system? And how does actually good sleep provide good health for us?
Yeah, well, it is all coming down to importance of sleep. If you're not sleeping well, everything falls apart, right? And we do need our good 7 to 9 hours of sleep. But when you think of sleep again, it's hard to separate sleep from everything else that's going on in your life. So it's a holistic approach, and even what you eat is going to affect how you sleep, and how you handle the stress in your life is going to affect how you sleep. So it's always comes down for me to work holistically. Yeah.
No, everything matters, right? That's the whole picture, the holistic picture. So another topic that we've got questions on, and you see a lot in the news, particularly in recent weeks and months, is about vitamin D and how there seems to be a lot of people that have a lack of vitamin D. Is that something that you can get from the sun? I believe it is something you can get from the sun, but how would you recommend is the best way to get the vitamin D that we need?
Yeah, it's tough, I find, and the majority of my patients are low in vitamin D. Okay. The best way to get vitamin D is sun exposure. So we'll say 20 minutes a day of sun exposure with the sun high in the sky, with 40% of your skin exposed. However, I have patients that do that, they're still vitamin D deficient. It's super hard to get enough vitamin D in food also, but the foods that you would consider, again, the fatty fish, cod liver oil is really a good one. Eggs, but they should probably be pasture raised to get the D, because chickens need to be outside also. Mushrooms, if you have actually wildly grown edible mushrooms, they can have good amounts of vitamin D in them also. The trouble is the things that we get in the grocery store are grown inside a lot of times, and so they also don't have the vitamin D. Yeah, so I end up having to supplement most all of my patients, because otherwise their levels are low.
Right, and that is important for immunity, strength, and health. Vitamin D. I guess all of these vitamins are, but you do hear a lot about vitamin D being, one of those vitamins to really pay attention to for good health.
Yeah, absolutely. Vitamin D, and I think primarily because people are low.
Yeah.
So the things that we really want to optimize that you see low across the board are the vitamin D and the omega-3s, and then all the phytonutrients.
Yeah.
So if you want to pare it down, these are what people are deficient in.
Okay, so moving on to next question. Hydration. How important is it to stay hydrated, and how many glasses of water would you recommend per day to do that?
Okay, super important.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, what we say, half your body weight in ounces per day.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, really it has to do with eliminating toxins, right? And unfortunately now, life is full of toxic exposure. So we've got in our personal care products and our cleaning products and the water and the air. So we have to constantly be thinking about how to optimize eliminating the toxins in our body. So drinking enough fluid and urinating is the number one way. Also bowel movements and sweating. So there's something that a lot of times your doctors don't talk to you about, but really you need to be drinking the water, having 1 to 3 bowel movements a day. Usually the diet with all the vegetables and fiber is going to help you with that. And sweating if you can. I know exercise is difficult for a lot of your patients, but if possible, working up a sweat is another way to really eliminate some of these toxins that can accumulate and disrupt immune function. So it's really hugely important to keep things moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for all this great information. I'm going to switch over to yet another topic, which is pain management. That is a question, we get a lot. People either are taking painkillers and want to come off of painkillers, or they want something that's complementary to the medicine they're taking. It's maybe not working as good as they had hoped. So any natural ways to actually address pain management?
Yeah, so I work a lot with pain in my practice, and again, holistically. Okay, so a lot of diet and lifestyle changes, stress reduction techniques, and for neuropathic pain, acupuncture I use quite a bit. So, I always go back to the same thing, the same anti-inflammatory diet like we were talking about. Optimizing nutrients. You'd just be surprised I never stop getting surprised at what you can do with food and even with pain. So, I also use a lot of supplements for people with neuropathic pain. There's not a lot of evidence for CIDP or GBS specifically, but I'll use evidence from other types of neuropathy like diabetic neuropathy, and we'll use some supplements. Again, curcumin is a good one for pain. Alpha-lipoic acid, acetyl-L-carnitine. It goes without saying, we'll get the omegas and Ds optimized, B vitamins optimized. These people are low in B vitamins. That's another one, And sometimes these things can really help. The exercise is a huge thing that helps pain. Which I know, again, it can be difficult sometimes, but it really has been shown, and in my experience, hugely important for reducing pain. Also, all the mind-body techniques, right? So, and all of these individually might not sound so like they're going to miraculously help your pain. But using everything all together makes a significant difference, and really putting in the time to make those diet and lifestyle changes, really doing self-care, it's going to help. So acupuncture is something that, another thing I didn't learn about in medical school, and it took me a while to realize the utility of it for pain. But I think it's becoming more and more accepted as a mainstream modality, and insurance is coming around, starting to cover it, which is great. And for some people, it's really, really effective. So that's another thing we use.
Can you explain just a little bit about acupuncture? We do get that question. People are a little nervous about getting acupuncture. They think it'll be painful. They don't really understand how it works and sort of what the philosophy of it is. So can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so there's different philosophies, whether you're coming from a Western philosophy, Eastern philosophy, right? The mechanisms of acupuncture. But we know scientifically that acupuncture releases a lot of feel-good chemicals, pain-relieving chemicals. There's even evidence that it causes some changes in the brain. There generally isn't painful. The needles are extremely fine. They're much thinner than a needle you would get for an injection or something like that. Not to say you don't feel it. You could feel it going in, but For a lot of people, it's almost like a pleasant sensation because it's pain relieving for them. Often I'll use electrical stimulation on the needle as well. So like a little pulse, which gives it a little bit more input to the needle. And where we place the needles, we place them around where the nerves are, closer to the skin, like the major nerves, because these are really active sites in acupuncture. So usually that's what you could expect is needles placed around the areas of pain, plus or minus a little electrical stimulation put on them. And overall, it shouldn't be an unpleasant experience. You know, if it is, then you need to communicate that. And
sounds like it's you can use acupuncture for pain management, and you said the feel-good hormone, so for stress management as well.
Absolutely. So absolutely. So thanks for bringing that up. I mean, acupuncture is hormone balancing. So one of the ways that it really works is easing the stress hormone cortisol, changing you over to a rest and digest nervous system, taking you down from fight or flight. So it's excellent for anxiety and stress reduction, hormone imbalances, as well as pain.
Great. That is really good information. And last but not least, you had written an article on doing breath work for our newsletter. And I just was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, because it is kind of an easy thing for people to grasp and to actually do as a quick way to, again, decrease stress, increase some of those good hormones. So wondering if you could just talk a little bit about some breathing exercises and why they are good for our immunity as well.
Yeah, so when it comes to autoimmune disease, stress is a huge factor. And the longer that I work holistically, the more I realize just how huge of a factor. So we know that people with post-traumatic stress disorder and have increased risk for autoimmunity, right? And these are people who spent long amounts of time in what we call fight or flight mode. So, you know, we have this primitive nervous system called the autonomic nervous system, which either is in fight or flight or rest and digest. And it kind of works like a switch. We want to spend most of our time in rest and digest and only be in fight or flight when we have to, if we're running from the lion or proverbial lion. And then we want to go right back into rest and digest again. But a lot of us get stuck in fight or flight. Okay, and that causes our hormone cortisol to be sustained and elevated. And this leads to like a cascade of health problems. It's not trivial. This is a huge thing, and I think your patients probably know because number one, they exacerbate when they're under stress, and maybe even their first, you know, when they developed the autoimmune problem, it was during a time of stress. So breathing exercises, as all these mind-body techniques, switch you from fight or flight to rest and digest. It just is a physiologic, automatic thing that happens when you slow your breath and breathe deeply into the belly. It's a real shift in your nervous system. It's no woo-woo science, it's physiologic. And the thing that's so great about breath work is you can just use it anytime. It's always there for you, anytime, any place. And you can do it by yourself. There's apps for that. Yeah.
Any actually apps for that? Is there any apps that you can recommend? They do ask about meditation as well, which is come hand in hand with breath work.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people like the Headspace app. for learning how to meditate.
Mhm.
Calm. For breathing, there's breathe to relax.
Breathe to relax.
Breathe to letter number 2, relax. And people like 10% happier. There's so many now.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. This has been such a pleasure and so much great information. I'm sure our patients are going to really enjoy this. So your website, we will link under this video, but go ahead if you want to say what your website is. They can find out a lot of more information.
Oh, it's just julierowinmd.com.
Okay.
Yep. ROWIN.
R-O-W, so Julie, ROWINMD.com. Julie's got a lot of more articles, more great information about integrative health, how to stay well and healthy. And is there any last words that you'd like to say to our audience today?
Yeah, so I hear lately all the things flying off the shelf is the meat and the alcohol and all these comfort foods. But just remember, we want to keep our immune system healthy, especially now, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So thank you so much. And everybody stay safe, stay healthy. We hope to see you all in person soon. And take care. Thank you.